I'm Jen, and this is Prague, the heart of Europe, and my adopted home. Subscribe to get an American's take on this enchanting city and all things Czech. Welcome to the adventure. Ahoy všichni. I have a real treat for you today. If you're a wine lover, if you're an expert in wines, or if you know as little about wines as I do, and if you're interested in Czech culture or in Czech products, which I know you are because you're watching my channel, then this is the video for you. Now, if you're not from Czechia, I can guarantee that the first drink you think of being Czech is beer. But you might be missing out on some excellent wines that are produced in the Moravian region of the Czech Republic. So in this video, I'm inviting you to join us in our private South Moravian wine tasting. And we have a very special wine expert who's going to guide us through some of these beautiful wines. She is an American sommelier who lives in Brno and is the founder of Civil Wines, which offers English-speaking tours and tastings in the Moravian wine region and vineyards. Being a savvy businesswoman, she is adapted to the times, and now she's offering virtual wine tastings for corporate team building or holiday events or any private group. She had 6 Moravian wines delivered to each of us, and then we all got together for a virtual wine tasting party. I've also assembled a very special guest list of some very adventurous expats and their partners, all foreigners to Czechia but one. Andrea is a Venezuelan who moved to Czechia with her Czech husband, and she loves to cook and share her expat adventures with us on her channel, Arepas for dinner. And you might recognize her from my channel.
I had the chance to go to Moravia for a wine tasting, and it was so much fun. I had no idea that Czech wine was good because, you know, it's not famous. It's not like people talk about Czech wine. Like, they talk about the beer, but never about the wine. So
she is joined by her husband, Jan, who, despite being Czech, actually learned a few things about Czech wine.
I would never expect that I will learn about Czech wines this way.
Chloé is a French expat from Nantes, and we met at a cooking event here in Prague, and she had so many great tips about places to visit in Czechia outside of Prague, despite only living here for less than a year. And so I immediately followed her on Instagram to get a French woman's perspective on the Czechs and to learn more about her adventures here in Czechia.
Honestly, I feel like that Czechia has a really many wonderful sites to visit, and as a French, I wasn't really aware of that, and I really want to share this these marvelous discoveries that we already have made and we will do in the future, and share this really interesting culture, Czech culture.
Kate is an American professional travel blogger who has been traveling the world for over a decade and blogging about it.
I run a blog called Adventurous Kate. I've been a pro travel blogger for the last 10 years, and I only moved to Prague on September 26th. You know, COVID messed up everything and kind of delayed everything, but finally they started letting in partners of permanent residence at the end of September. So I came right over, and I have been here ever since.
I was reading Kate's blog before I even moved to Czechia, and I was really inspired by her independence and her thirst for discovering new cultures. And look, now I'm even doing it too. She's joined by her boyfriend, Charles, who has been living in Prague for over 20 years, and he has definitely seen the Czech wine scene change in that time. Our sommelier, Arielle, the founder of Civil Wines, moved to Brno 2 years ago and brought her expertise with her. She has lived and worked in the wine scene in France and New York and North Carolina, in restaurants and in wine stores, and as the sommelier in bars.
I've been a big advocate of Czech wine with my website and my blog and Instagram and social media. And I think these wines are just interesting and dynamic. And it's just been such a dream to be able to live a half hour from the vineyards.
And of course, you know Hansa, keeping the party lively as always.
You guys all knew that, right?
Jan.
Is there like a technique or I see everyone smells the wine and then they taste the wine. I don't know what's going on other than that, right?
Right.
He knows what to do with wine. We are going to taste 6 different wines, and because this is a longer video than usual, I've time-stamped each of the wines so you can skip ahead or jump back as you need. Now, even though I sometimes slip into calling it Czech wine because it's from the Czech Republic, it's really from the Moravian region. So these are all Moravian wines. And even better, if you're in Czechia, you can likely find these wines and taste them along with us. So make a shopping list, try them along with us, and tell us what you think. And if you enjoy learning about a foreigner's perspective on life in Czechia, then subscribe to this channel so you'll be notified every time I make a new video. So let's get started.
I cherry-picked all of these wines for all of you today. I have a personal relationship with all of these wineries, with the winemakers, and they put so much heart into these wines that this is what, drives my education programs in Brno. What I like to talk about with the Czech Republic and wine is that it's an old wine region and a new wine region at the same time. So vines have been planted here since the 2nd century AD. Romans planted vines. But due to numerous world wars, the 30 Years' War, agriculture and vinification and viticulture really didn't take off until the end of the Velvet Revolution in 1989. That's when more investments were made into the wineries, when cellars were improved, when viticulture techniques were improved, and that kind of has catapulted the industry right now. Shall we start with the first wine, and then I'll give you a little background into the regions? So the first wine you'll have is sample number 1. It's the GURDAU Riesling. So a lot of people are familiar with Riesling. It's a German grape variety. It's been grown in the world since the 14th century. It's fairly old in the Czech Republic. It's been planted here for probably since about the 15th century. With GURDAU, it's a fairly young project. It was started in 2012 by Jaromír Gala, acclaimed winemaker. So 80% of what makes up their vineyards is Riesling. GURDAU is actually the old name of the village where the grapes are grown. So GURDAU is the kind of modified version of Kurdějov, which is what the village is known as today. What's interesting about it is that there's actually 6 different clones of Riesling that they've planted. So they've taken clones from Alsace, from Germany, and from Austria, and have planted different clones of Riesling in their vineyards. And you'll smell really citrus-driven aromas, green apple, some petrol notes.
Petrol.
Apricots and linden blossom.
So that's so fascinating you say petrol. Like that is the last thing I'd want to say about a wine. But is that a common thing that you say? Like, oh, I smell petrol.
Riesling from Germany is known for its petrol aroma, this kind of struck match or petrol kind of character to it. And it's typical of that particular clone of Riesling from Germany. But it's a desirable quality in Riesling.
Is it simplistic to think that white wines just, you go with fish and chicken? Like what would be a good pairing with this one?
Andrea, you're the chef here. So, when you have, that perfect piece of fried schnitzel, let's say, and you squeeze a little bit of lemon on it, that little bit of lemon really lifts the dish. Mm-hmm. And so by having a wine that has pretty high acid, this is quite an acidic wine, but by pairing that with that fat and salt and fried bits, you can lift the whole dish. You like this one?
I like this a lot. What do you guys think?
Yeah, me too. I feel like you're right. It's really about green apple and things like lemon and buttery. I don't know how to express it.
Chloé, you have a really good palate. When they're maturing the Riesling, after the fermentation is finished and complete, the Riesling goes into a stainless steel tank, partly, and the wine remains on the lees for an extended period of time. And by keeping the wine on those lees, on those dead yeast cells, it creates an extra broader kind of complexity and that butteriness kind of on the palate.
I like it because it's fruity without being sweet, which is like a huge thing for me. I was not expecting to like it so much. It's very good.
So this grape variety I had absolutely no idea of it before I moved to the Czech Republic. I had never had one before. This was a complete kind of foreign grape variety for me. And this is REISTEN's Riesling Vlašský. Riesling Vlašský has nothing to do with Riesling. There is no correlation between the two. They are two separate grape varieties. There's no DNA. People think that the origin is Austria. So, of course, Austria in the 14th century was quite a large nation. It was transplanted here in the 15th century and has since really taken off. For me, this is the grape of the Czech Republic. I think this is the one that's really going to be the kind of the leader in terms of what the Czech Republic will be known for. For me, it has lots of yellow fruit aromas, kind of yellow apples, yellow pears, quince fruit, kind of when you think of this like yellow nectarines, lots of stone fruit. The best expression of Riesling Vlašský comes from Pavlov, from this particular vineyard site. This is called Sluný vrch, meaning sunny hill. And it's one of the most picturesque regions and vineyard sites for me in the country. I go to Pavlov and I'm just blown away at the beauty. I mean, you feel like you're in some other universe. It's just very peaceful and serene and just a stunning area of the world. REISTEN Winery was established in the mid-90s by famed winemaker Oldřich Drapal. Oldřich Drapal Sr. actually makes Slávové wine. He makes some of the best Slávové straw wine I've had in the country. So he established REISTEN Winery. It is now owned by J&T Bank Holdings, but that ownership has led to a huge amount of investment into the winery. The tasting room's absolutely beautiful. In fact, they actually built a new tasting room and it overlooks this winery. So if you go there to enjoy a glass of wine, you can overlook the vineyards where the grapes are grown, which is just beautiful, really stunning. These are wines that can be made sweet, of course, like are done in Austria, but they can also be made into sparkling wine, to dry white wine, to orange wines. I've had some great orange wine from Welsh Riesling, really cool stuff. It's a fascinating grape because it is late ripening, like Riesling, but it's allowed to be fashioned into many different styles. And I think it's such a chameleon.
Do they produce the sparkling wine from this one here as well in Czech Republic?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh. So Vinarství Volajík makes a beautiful sparkling Welsh Riesling, and they're really awesome. Yeah, beautiful sparkling wine in this country. So,
I had no idea. Idea about it.
There are producers who make sparkling wine, Martin Prokesh being one of my favorites, and he makes beautiful sparkling wine from Welsh Riesling. So definitely one to seek out.
We spent the summer in Croatia and there was a lot of wine during that time. This kind of reminds me of Gurk. Do you notice that at all? Gurk is like this very strange wine that is only in this little corner of this little island, the island of Korčula, only place in the world where they make it, but it has a similar, very, the salinity, the mineraliness to it.
Shall we go on to the third? The third's going to be quite different. So this is a grape, it's a Pinot Blanc. Everything that this winery produces, I just love. I love the family behind it. There's so much to this winery. So this is ŠPALEK Pinot Blanc sur Lie.
Oh, wow. That's very different.
Yeah.
Yes, it's much more creamy.
Buttery one, right?
A lot of people, when they're enjoying white wine, a lot of the challenges that people have, they say, there's so much acid in these white wines. It's really hard for me to digest and, I don't like it as much. And so there are possibilities to have white wines that are a little bit lower in acidity, that have a little bit more creaminess to them, that aren't so piercing. I've always found a way to find a white wine for everybody.
Usually I don't love white, but so far I've been loving everything. So
cool.
I'm very happy about that.
This wine demands food for me, this Pinot Blanc. I mean, this with a tender pork loin and some mushrooms and potatoes would just be the perfect pairing to it.
Can you think of any cheeses that would be good with this?
Yes.
Yeah. So I would definitely do like a mild cheese, kind of like fontina. or even a really soft, creamy brie. I would stay away from anything too strong, like Roquefort or blue cheese or Camembert, or even something that's too hard, like Manchego. I think it would be lost. But something kind of creamy. You know, back in the States, we used to make baked brie a lot. It was a really easy dish to make, and we'd cover it with honey. That would be perfect with that, with this wine. It's an organic winery, so all of the grapes are grown organically. They're converting to biodynamic wine growing right now. The winery itself has an interesting backstory. So the family, the ŠPALEK is the name of the family. Here, that tradition of keeping the family name on the bottle is primary. The family owned vines prior to the Velvet Revolution. So all of their privately owned vines were given to the states until 1991, when the state register allocated the vines back to the ŠPALEK family. And it took a lot of convincing of the two brothers, Marek ŠPALEK and Peter Illner, to convince the father, František ŠPALEK, to create a private commercial winery. So in 1997, they finally established this commercial winery and now farm 12 hectares in Znojmo. Znojmo is right on the border of Austria. It's located in a kind of a municipality called Novi Šaldorf, which is just on the outskirts of Znojmo. And all of the family works in the vineyards. They've really upped their game. They're making really premium wines. This wine is fermented in oak. It is matured in other French oak as well, on the lees. It's a lot of care is put into this wine. And the family, František ŠPALEK, is probably 75 years old. And if you go to the winery, you will see him on the tractor. You'll see him like out in the fields and working, and you know, he will live in the vineyards forever. It brings him so much joy. So this is why I selected this wine, and it's delicious. So this is the same winery. This is ŠPALEK. I wanted to show the two wines side by side, kind of the two Burgundy grape varieties, so Pinot Blanc and Pinot Noir. Same deal goes with this Pinot Noir. It is matured in French barrique, so a little bit more of that baking spice notes to it, a hint of vanilla.
Yeah, the vanilla, I get that.
Lots of cherry and red fruits, and kind of a blackberry fruit, black cherry notes, kind of black and red fruit, forest fruits. A little bit of that tannin as well. Tannin's basically that drying sensation, like a black tea note on the palate as well. And the color is just quite stunning. I mean, I love that light ruby color, light cherry color. Znojmo is one of the oldest wine regions in South Moravia. And you can tell when you go into the cellars because they're made out of sandstone. So originally in this region of the world, there was a sea. That sea left sand deposits underneath the cellar, underneath the ground, which is now the wine cellars that were carved out by the Germans. If you go into the majority of cellars in Znojmo, it's fascinating because the sandstone has carved out these natural kind of tunnels and things like that. And if you actually touch the wall, it's sand. It'll just, you know, you can press your finger right into it. It's something really unique to see. I think for anyone who loves wine, who visits cellars, to go to Znojmo and see these underground cellars carved out of sandstone. I mean, you feel like you're just in another universe. It's really beautiful. So, and very unique to the region of South Moravia.
Into the National Salon of Wine in Lednice.
Yeah, in Valtice, exactly, the National Wine Salon. It's open every day, but you pay a certain entrance fee and you are allowed 1.5 hours to taste all of the wines in the salon. And that's 100 wines in the salon.
Is that like
I'm really lucky?
as a challenge?
Yeah,
Right.
I was like, they allowed Czech people inside? Are they sure?
How many can you actually try, like physically?
So I typically, when I go into the salon, they have spittoons out so I can spit. I try to taste the majority. I've been really lucky that I've actually been the judge on the panel to evaluate all the wines going into the salon. in 2019 and 2020. So I was invited to Valtitsa to have a blind tasting through the wines and to figure out which ones would be entered in or not. In this country alone, there's 50 registered grape varieties in their state register book.
Wow.
So that's a lot. I mean, when you're looking at countries like Austria that have maybe a dozen, or countries like Germany that have less than a dozen.
That's actually.
Good.
Right. There's 1,800 commercial wineries in the Czech Republic. That's more than Oregon. That's more than the entire state of Oregon. And Oregon makes a lot of wine. So I'm thrilled to show Cabernet Moravia. This is 100% from this country. It was developed here in the mid-20th century. So I'll talk about the label. I know you guys have your sample bottles, but the label here was actually hand-painted by the winemaker, by Karel VÁLKA. So Karel VÁLKA is the patriarch. 1991, he started the winery. They are now 100% certified organic. And for each wine, for each vintage, he hand paints these labels. So I think that just adds that little extra touch to the wines. I've been lucky enough to visit this vineyard, and this is in fact where the Cabernet Moravia grows. So it's not just of any vineyard. This is exactly where the grape is from.
Wow.
That's amazing.
But Cabernet Moravia is a crossing. So it was developed in the mid-20th century, like many other Czech grape varieties, to create a grape variety that was a little bit more frost resistant, that was able to withstand the unpredictable climate changes that happen in winter and spring, of course. So Cabernet Moravia is a crossing of Zweigelt, and Cabernet Franc. And Zweigelt is where you get that peppery, black pepper note to it. The reason I picked this wine, many reasons, but I love the color of Cabernet Moravia. And I think this really shows it off. It's this
So purple.
Right. It's so purple, fuchsia, magenta. It's really attractive color.
Compared to the other one that is super, super maroon. This one looks like so purple. We're
Right.
not seeing that.
Yeah.
This is the color that all my nice dresses are. You know that.
Yeah. So what I love about Cabernet Moravia, you get the best of both worlds. I mean, you get Cabernet Franc, which is quite an old grape variety. It's the parent to Cabernet Sauvignon. And you get this violet, kind of green pepper, kind of herbaceous note, matched with Zweigelt, which is cherry and peppery and really spicy. And putting these two grapes together, genetically engineering it to produce Cabernet Moravia. These wines are such great value wines. This bottle is under, I think, €8. So, a high quality wine that's organic, that's certified organic, made from a family in Nosislav, in Velké Pavlovice. So I think it's, you can't get better values than these, just locally produced wines. It goes with a really wide variety of foods. I've had this wine with pizza. I've had it with steak. I've had it with mac and cheese.
I really like this one. Like the previous red one was more like serious. This one is more like fun. I could drink like.
So this is going to be much more of a full-bodied wine, but still using a grape variety that's pretty typical of the region. So Modri Portugal and Cabernet Sauvignon from KOLBY winery in Mikulov, in Pozsvány. So this wine for me has more chocolate notes, dark blackberry notes, kind of like blackberry marmalade, more of a jam note to it. It kind of has that sensation to it, that dried cocoa sensation, but very earthy on the palate, very mushroomy and forest floor and earthy notes, black fruit, blackberry, black currant fruits.
Yes.
And that French barrique also helps to, like I was mentioning, it helps to add a little bit more of a spice component, a touch of vanilla to it as well. Helps to broaden the wine. This is your venison wine, Kate. This is what you want for your
Saying that before.
It's strong. Yeah.
Venison.
Yeah.
What is the main market? Is it the domestic market or is it sold abroad?
So the Czech Republic's actually a net import country. So they consume everything that they make and then have to import on top of that. So they import something, I think the statistic is like 60% or 70% of the wines they consume come from abroad, in addition to the wines they're consuming here too. So when I learned that statistic, I was really blown away that
We're
so
not.
much wine is consumed.
I mean, I'm not surprised.
So what were your favorites of the reds?
For me, it was 5 for sure.
For me, 6. It's very strong. I like strong wines.
I like the 6 as well, but 5 I could drink entire bottle, which is good thing to me.
I agree.
Cool.
That's my California preference with the pepper and the spice. So
I think the Pinot Noir is my favorite. There was just something very special about that, and considering that was my favorite white as well, that is my first trip after quarantine. I can't wait to go visit this winery.
oh, it's the same vineyard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, in
Spalek.
Znojmo.
Number 4 for me too.
Number 6?
6.
Yeah, for me.
We've tasted 6 totally different wines tonight from very different producers and different, styles, but I think all very high quality.
If I come with a bunch of French friends, is it possible to call you and say, may we visit with you or organize some tasting? Do you do this kind of activities?
Exactly. So pre-COVID life, I was hosting in-person wine tastings at various wine bars in Brno, and I was about to launch my wine tours to transport, 10 to 12 people to the cellars to organize a day of wine tasting, 2 wineries, maybe 3 wineries that I really love. But yes, post-COVID, please call me. I have so much love for these winemakers, and they're very eager to show their wines. So, they're very excited about opportunities, export opportunities. They are starting to export too. So Czech wines are now in the US, in Canada, in the UK, in Asia, particularly Hong Kong, Tokyo, Singapore. They are in Poland. They are in Germany.
Do they sometimes leave some aside for the Prague market? Because I've spent some time in Moravia, and you chat with the winemakers, and they're like, yeah, we don't actually send the good stuff to Prague. We keep...
KOLBY and REISTEN have a wine bar in Prague.
Oh.
Where?
Oh.
So you can enjoy these wines. I believe it's in Rustonka. I cannot wait to meet all of you in person and bring you to the wineries and drink and enjoy it and look at the vineyards and to get an understanding of why I love it here so much. So yeah, I'm very excited to host all of you here in South Moravia. You're welcome anytime. COVID, no COVID, just come.
For me, I would never expect that I will learn about Czech wines this way. It's ridiculous, and I loved it. Really, it was very nice.
Well, I am really keen on for a new trip to South Moravia. Really keen on. Thank you very much for your expertise, and thank you, Jen, for the invitation. It was really good.
Awesome.
Cheers, everyone.
Cool.
Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Just lovely. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you learned something new about Moravian wines. I'd love it if you tried some of these wines and let us know what you think in the comment section below, or tell us what your favorite wine produced in this country is. Big thanks to Arielle from Civil Wines for her expertise today, and to all of our guests. I've put all of their contact information in the description box below, so please go and have a look at their channels. I hope to see you on the Moravian vineyards next year. Uvidíme se příští týden. Ahoj.